Hi, I'm the Imaris guy, and I'm going to present a series of installation videos. This is the first of a series of installation videos where I'm going to show you how to install Python in various different methods. I'm going to use the standard Windows method, I'm going to use Anaconda, and I'll show PyCharm in various videos in the future. I'm going to start by showing how to install Python for Windows using kind of just a standard Python installation for Windows. Now, if you come in over here and you look at the website, you find python.org or Python 3.7.9. Python 3.7.9 is the version that is compatible with the current version of Imaris, and that's the version that we're going to link Python to within the Imaris program. Now, you're going to use this program, you're going to come down here, you're going to download the executable installer, and you're going to go ahead and install the software. So to do that, we just double click the icon and go through the installation. Now, you can install the software Python 3.7.9 anywhere you wish. You can install it on the default location. You can have your own special location. Now, by default, it gets installed into the user directory of your Windows profile under local programs Python folder. When you're installing the program, typically you also want to add the Python path, 3.7 path, to the Windows environment variables. Now you want to do this because if you had multiple versions of Python installed in this computer, either on your user or someone else's user, you want to make sure that the Python 3.7 path is the first on the list. So if you do this and add this button here, it will be first on the list. So when we go in to install some of the Python libraries to be able to use some of the Imaris extensions, they will be able to install them to that particular instance of Python. So we're going to turn this on. I'm just going to use the default location, and we're going to go ahead and click install. Now, just so you're aware, I'm going to come over here and I am going to kind of open up what the environment variable location looks like. So it's going to be, if we come over here, show you, under this PC, you come here, you type properties, go to advanced systems, and go to environment variables. When you do this and you look at the path for the user directory, which is where we're getting it installed, go to edit, you'll see that I have two versions of Python installed. I have Python 3.7, which we just installed, and I also have a newer version of Python 3.11 installed as well. And you can see Python 3.7 will automatically go toward the top. If it is not, and for whatever reason you do have multiple versions that are above the 3.7 version, for purposes of setting up the libraries for that particular version so it can link with the Imaris program, we want to make sure we can move them up and down using the buttons here to the top of this particular environment variable window. So as long as they're at the top, we are good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and close these out. And those are for your user settings. If you came over here and did anything to the path, that is for the entire system. You cannot modify it there as well, but I typically tend to make those changes to the path here. So change this up, close this out, close this out, and close this up. So we're going to go ahead and launch a command prompt, and we're going to show you what it looks like when you come in here and launch Python. You should see Python 3.7.9. That's what you expect. If you don't see that, then something might be wrong with your environment variables and it's not showing up in here. Okay, so we'll just get out of this. Python is great. Now actually, if we come in here and say we try to import, for example, NumPy, and we're going to talk about importing the libraries. If you come in here and say import NumPy, we're actually in Python, so if we import NumPy, and if you get something that looks like that, that means that particular library is not installed. NumPy is a very traditional, very common library that's installed with many, many extensions. I pretty much have it in all of my extensions, and many of you will probably use it as well. So we want to make sure we install that, plus a couple other extensions, a couple other libraries for the Python. So we're going to come out of there, So there's a line of code that we want to write. It's pretty basic code, pretty simple Python installation. You can probably look it online. There's all different ways to kind of install the Python libraries. I'm going to use the pip installer to install Python and install these libraries. So you're going to type in Python. So come in here, type in Python, use /m. Over here, I'm going to do pip install. I'm going to do it on the user directory -- user, and then we're going to type in the library. So we're going to do NumPy. It's one that I often use. We're going to use SciPy. We're going to use Pandas, which is another number library. What else are we going to do? We're going to do SymPy, and we're going to do Open CV Python. Those are pretty much the main ones that I installed. Now I'm going to add new ones later. And if we go through an extension, we're going to talk about all the libraries that are required for any particular extension that we show within some of the videos that will be posted on this YouTube channel. But we're going to go here and just install these ones, because these are the ones that I typically use that we'll be able to use most of the extensions that we're going to be talking about in the near future. So we go ahead, click return, and it's going to go ahead and install these structures. Now it's going to go ahead and install these. A lot of these have already been cached and installed in the program, so they're not actually installing them, but it's going to go through and install any kind of extensions that it needs to be able to install these guys. Any potential error messages that come up, you can pretty much typically ignore them. It might be just a path error or something like that, but this is usually a good way to make sure it's installing the software correctly. So now we have all the libraries installed. So now we want to go ahead and double check to make sure that that library that we installed, for example NumPy, is in work. So we come in here, we launch Python, which gets us into the Python environment here, and we can go in and try to import NumPy. And if we don't get an error message, yeah, I think we have everything working as you don't have to try all of the libraries that we installed. Just trying that one, just to make sure, just to show you that it is actually working. So once we get that installed, the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that we apply the proper path to the Imaris program. So we're going to go ahead and launch Imaris. Once Imaris is launched, we are going to go up here to File. I'm going to go to Preferences. Go down to Custom Tools. This is going to show you where kind of the Python interface kind of starts. How do you kind of get that interface working, whether you're adding the extensions folders or the path for Python. So we're going to go into the Python path. So here we're going to go to the 3.7 path here, and we're going to navigate to the location where you install it. Now again, I use the default location. You're just going to type in that either manually, or you can browse through it through a file explorer. You can browse to that location. In addition, if you do have any extensions folders that you already have downloaded or some that you have written, you're going to share that folder or add that folder here so that it shows up within the Imaris application. And we'll go into that and show where those applications show up, and in fact talk a little bit about why it shows up here, why it shows up there, when we get into more of the videos about showing some of the extensions themselves. But this is where you want to make sure you add that in there and be ready to go. And then you just click OK to close the software, and then you're ready to go. And those extensions should be all ready to be launched. So I just want to thank you for listening to this little video. Hopefully it gives you a very quick and easy way to install Python using Python for Windows. In future videos we will talk about using Anaconda 3 or PyCharm to create a Python environment that you can use to install the libraries that are required, and also link that Python environment to the Imaris program. It's a little different path, but it's the process the same. Some people are more familiar with those. If you're more advanced users of Python, you might be more familiar with using those Python environments. So thank you very much, and I look forward to producing the next video.